Welcome to this edition of the Lindenwood Sports Show. I'm your host, Jake Adams. After an impressive season last year, the women's basketball team looks to continue their success on the court. Joining me today is women's head coach, Katie Falco. Coach, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, I want to start off with a kind of a personal question. How did you get into coaching? And then a follow-up is, what led you to becoming the Lindenwood head coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was a college student athlete at Northern Iowa, and I just had a group of coaches that I really respected and admired and were mentors to me. And through that experience, I knew I wanted to be a college coach myself. And so I went on to grad school at Utah State University and became the graduate assistant for the women's basketball program there. And that's where I really got my feet wet. And I had great leadership in that program too. And they were able to show me the ropes of what this business looks like and to give me some of that early experience. And first started coaching at Montana State as an assistant. The assistant at Utah State at the time took the head job at Montana State and asked me to come with her, and I, of course, jumped on with that opportunity. So, and then I moved to South Dakota State and was there for 10 years as an assistant afterwards. And so it was a part of a program at South Dakota State that had been to several national tournaments and a really successful program and leadership, and was able to see firsthand what a successful program looks like and how do you become successful and the discipline that goes along with it. And I just absolutely love my experience. You know, as a college coach, when you're in it for a while at that point, I was as an assistant for 14 years. You know, you start asking yourself, when is it time? When is it time to make the next step? Am I ready? You know, you get those opportunities that come along the way. Lindenwood seeked me out, and I said, you know what, I'm going to hear him out. I'm going to listen to him. And I knew right away after my first conversation that this was a place that I was going to be really excited about, and I felt like it was going to be a great fit. And so as I went through the process, everything was confirmed. The vision that our athletic director has and the opportunities that we are able to provide our student athletes here at Lindenwood is phenomenal. From a personal perspective, I have a husband and children, so our family needs to be a good fit for us as well. And it's been wonderful. Love the community, love the opportunities that this city has, and certainly the university, and we really enjoy being here.
Mm-hmm. So let's kind of dive into last season.
Yeah.
Your team was 21-8 overall,
yeah,
and 14-5 in conference play. What are you looking to do to continue your success going into this season, even though you've changed conferences?
Yeah, you know, naturally as a coach, you know, we're all very competitive and we want to do better every year. And my biggest goal is to make a program that's consistently good. You know, I don't want to ride the coattails of a class or have one of those up and down seasons, or even from one season to the next. I really want to establish some stability here at Lindenwood with our women's basketball program and be recognized as one of the best programs at the Division II level. And I think that takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of our players buying into the vision that we have as a program and what we're able to get done. And so to build on last year, you know, we had a phenomenal year and it was a great experience. I couldn't have asked for anything better in my first year as a head coach. But I don't want to just have what we had last year. I want to be better, and I want to grow every single year, and it takes great student athletes. It requires a strong level of recruitment to continue to bring in quality basketball players, but good high character young women as well. And so we talk a lot about what our standard is and what our expectation is and what it's going to take to get there. You know, everybody wants to win and everybody wants to be great, but at the end of the day, how much are we willing to do? And that's where the discipline, that's where the focus comes in, and I think that's what separates great teams, because everybody wants to be good. And so to know what the vision is, to buy into that vision, and then to work hard every single day, that requires accountability, that requires communication. It requires this level of competitiveness that I'm going to beat the person in front of me, and I'm going to make sure that, you know, our team is on the same page, and, you know, keeping the vision in mind. But it's the day-to-day grind. What are we willing to do? And we're trying to create that culture. That's an expectation. That's not something we need to teach.
Right. Last season, you lost 3 seniors.
Yeah.
What have you done, or has your team done, to replace that leadership with the next group of people, or next group of girls that has come in?
Yeah, our seniors last year were really good, and they bought in right away to what we were going to do and what I asked them to do. I was hired, and they didn't know the system that I was going to be putting in and the expectations that I had in place, and we started right away from building relationships. I'm very much of a relationship coach. I think it's important for everybody to understand that there's trust and there's communication, and the more trust that you have with the players and that they have in you, you're going to get more out of them. And so I appreciated our senior class last year buying into that right away. And anytime you lose a group of seniors, and we had 4 last year, and 3 of them were starters, those are big shoes to fill, right? And you wonder, well, what are you going to do the next year? And that's recruiting. You got to bring in great individuals, but it's also the players that were on the team last year now need to take another step forward. Their roles need to increase. Their roles need to improve. They can't look at themselves maybe as a freshman anymore or as a sophomore. Everybody needs to raise their level. And that's what great teams do. Great teams graduate really good players, but they are able to have a lot of players that have been in the system that understand how we work and what our expectations are and what's necessary to be good and to stay at that level. So you continue to see that growth. You continue to see new players do things that maybe they weren't asked to do in the past, and now they're needing to. So the player development piece is important. We brought in 7 new players this year, and so half of our team is new and half of them are returning. And so you ask, what are we going to do to replace them? Well, we feel like the seniors last year helped create this foundation for what we want to be, and now we have a group of players that have been in our system before. So now year 2, they know a little bit more what to expect. They have a taste of success and they want it. And then we recruited these new players to come in and be impactful and to jump on board with the vision. We want to give them a great experience. We want this team to be extremely successful. And so we just expect them to raise their bar, and we push them beyond maybe what they feel like they're capable of because we have that trust and we see what everybody's potential is. And so that's what's been fun this year. Teaching a new offense and a system last year to 14 players was tough. Right. But they knew each other. They knew each other's tendencies on the court because they had played together. This year we have 7 new players and 7 returners. So we said, teaching the offense might be a little bit easier. And that fairly is true. But our players are still getting used to understanding what everybody's role is and what their strengths and weaknesses and how they play together. And so that's what we're continuing to grow. And so we feel like our seniors this year and the new players that we brought in, and then certainly a great group of young returners that we have, are ready to take on that challenge to be able to fill the shoes of the seniors that left last year.
So I want to go forward to Wednesday, November 13th at Highland Arena.
Yeah.
First game, opener at home. You're taking on Pittsburgh State.
Yeah.
And overall, the team is 3-8 against them. But in recent matchups, you've actually had some success against them, including a 2-game win streak. If you could just kind of summarize what the goal for that game is.
Yeah, it's definitely our home opener. It's the first game of the year. They were a team that was in our conference last year, and now we're playing them in a non-conference game. And Pitt State is tremendous. Historically, they're one of the best programs in Division II women's basketball. And we were able to beat them twice last year. But they know us. There's not going to be any surprises, and we feel like we know them. And so there's a challenge to that. Certainly we're happy that we get them in Highland Arena this year to kick off the year. But I anticipate it being a battle. I really do. They're a great team. We feel like we're a great team. We've got pieces that match up well with what they do. And we just want to have a really good showing. Being our first game of the year and then being at home, we're hoping to get a good crowd. Both of our programs last year were just really talented. So to come out and watch a great women's college basketball game, I don't know that you could ask for a better matchup, especially with the excitement of the start of the year. And so I anticipate it being really fun. Anybody who loves the game, I think, would find some enjoyment from it. And I would anticipate it being fast-paced and tough, gritty plays, physical, and then a balance of skill on both sides of the ball.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you to Coach Falco for joining me today. Up next, we're going to talk to the men's head basketball coach and what he hopes the team will achieve this season.
want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to the Lindenwood Sports Show. The men's basketball team is looking to take a step in the right direction following a difficult season last year. Joining me today is the new head coach of the men's team, Coach Kyle Gerdeman. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. So I just want to ask a quick question about, you as a person specifically. How did you get into coaching in general? And then what led you to this position as the Lindenwood men's head coach?
Yeah. I think, in general, I think it was just kind of like, like a lot of kids growing up. You kind of enjoy sports and you enjoy basketball, and you play basketball in high school. And one thing that influenced me a lot was my father was a basketball coach for 30 years. So I was always around the game, around a coach, obviously. And then when I went to college, I didn't play, but always worked with the teams, and kind of decided probably after my sophomore year that I really wanted to try to be a basketball coach, but more specifically in the college ranks. I wasn't necessarily interested in teaching in high school and being a high school coach. So that's kind of the background of how I got into the profession. And like I said, a lot of it is just the background and having a father that was a coach and just really enjoying the sport.
Mm-hmm. And then what led you to becoming the Lindenwood head coach? It's interesting because, I think growing up here, I grew up in Wright City, Missouri, so I was familiar with the area and, always knew what Lindenwood was and kind of saw the campus and everything grow over the years, which has turned into a beautiful place. I think obviously the biggest connection is just with Brad Wackler, our AD, having a previous relationship with him from our time at Central Michigan. I think the vision that he has for athletics in general here on campus is a positive one and an exciting one. So I think when the opportunity came open, a couple of conversations with Brad, it just seemed like a good fit to, be in an area I'm familiar with, and then at a university that kind of wants to take athletics in a positive direction. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you were at Central Michigan before this, and you were there for 7 seasons. While you were there, your teams had a 121 win and 108 loss record, 528 winning percentage. What would you say was your key to the success that you had there?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we had a really good head coach in Keno Davis, and I think he was hired with his vision of the direction he wanted to take the program. Kind of a rebuild situation, and I think one of the biggest keys I think was that we were kind of all as a staff on the same page as what we needed to do to be successful, and that started with the recruitment of really good student athletes, and I mean student and athlete, because we had good people, we had focused students, and then we had good basketball players, and I think obviously that combination, it just makes your day enjoyable. You're able to get a lot of things done when you have those focused individuals around you. And the other thing I think obviously from the basketball side is I think Coach had a unique style of play, an up-tempo style that a lot of people claim they want to play, but in reality it's a little bit harder to get to at times. But I think our offensive strategies, our tempo, brought us a chance to be successful against a lot of teams, and I think those 2 areas are probably where we found our most success.
Mm-hmm. Now, and you mentioned that you had good students and athletes, not only just the athletes part, but the students as well. How important to you is the student success off the court?
Yeah, I think it's really important. You have to build. I just believe you have to build your program with high character people. So you go after those type of student athletes. But I think that if we forget, the importance of academics, we're kind of missing a big part of the college experience. Every student athlete is a little bit different in their motivation and where they're at as far as knowing what they want to major in, knowing where they'd like to work after college. And I think we have to help shape and mold all of our guys in the right direction off the court. Some guys are, like I said, some guys are way ahead of the game, so to speak, when it comes to academics and their future. Some guys are still trying to figure it out, and that's nothing uncommon. The majority of students are the same way, I think, probably, not just student athletes. So it's important, we have to have the structure, the same structure that we would have in our daily practice to determine our success. I think you have to challenge, individuals off the court to drive themselves to be, good students, high academic, and, be focused on their future.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of want to shift a little bit to the actual team now, the men's team. Coming in, I'm assuming that you have a lot of different feelings and emotions about the team itself kind of going into it. What are you most excited about for this particular season?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just the opportunity. The opportunity that we all have. Myself as a head coach, my staff, my assistants. I think we all have a motivation from a coaching standpoint that we all have a really good opportunity, to lead this program. I have a chance to be a head coach. One of my assistants has joined us from the NBA G League, so now it's his first chance to be a college basketball coach. I've got other guys with experience that, are kind of anxious to, take a bigger role as a coach and a coaching staff. So I think that opportunity from that standpoint is exciting. And in reality, I think that our team, I think, probably feels the same way. We've got some returners that, I feel like we're probably going to put in a little bit bigger role than they've played maybe the previous seasons. I think they're excited about that opportunity. We've brought in a bunch of new guys as well, a freshman, a lot of junior college transfers. And honestly, I think they're in the same situation. I think they were good players. They've had good careers, but I think they all have an opportunity to take a big step forward personally to help our program, again, have a bigger role in the basketball side of things than maybe they've had before. And I think that just builds a lot of excitement as you put your team together.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned firsts for you as a head coach, first for one of your assistants as a college coach. This is the men's basketball team's first season in the GLVC.
Yeah.
What are you expecting from this particular conference?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think that obviously I think there's quite a bit of unknown stepping into a new conference. I think from just being around basketball, I think me personally, I think the GLVC has always been a power conference, so to speak. It's got a great reputation. It's got big name recognition. You've got schools, Bellarmine, Southern Indiana, Lewis, University of Indianapolis. You hear about those schools on a constant basis. During the basketball season. They're traditionally very good teams. And then I think you can go down the list, and I think there's a lot of good teams in the program. So, I think there's some unknown, but I think the excitement is that, we get some teams that again, carry some name recognition. We have a few that are just, really close proximity to campus. It's just, Upsall, just right down the road, Maryville, just across town, so to speak. I think that generates some excitement, some rivalry, some helps the fan base, I think, with, understanding who the teams are we're playing. And I think that itself, can generate a lot of excitement.
Mm-hmm. And I know with this particular conference, a lot of the road games are a lot closer than in previous years. So I'm assuming that when it comes to rest and stuff, you guys will have a better chance of actually being able to be fully rested.
Yeah. I've actually looked at some of the travel itineraries they had from the MIAA, and boy, there were some brutal trips on that. So, I'm excited that we don't have to do that. But no, I think you make a good point, though. I think when you when you think about, your furthest trip, I think this year maybe being Indianapolis, I think, that's not too bad. And, when you can travel and be comfortable going, I think, to a game the day of the game versus going the night before when you don't have to, getting back to campus at a reasonable time where guys can rest, recover, be ready for the next day, those things make a big difference. And, I think just over the course of a career, being in other conferences, I can remember, those long bus trips back where you get back to campus at, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and you've been on a bus for 5, 6 hours. I think it takes a hard toll, and probably a harder toll than people realize on the student athlete, on their bodies, on their rest habits, on their sleep patterns. I mean, I think it makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. How much success are you anticipating having in the conference itself? Because, I mean, we mentioned that it is a new conference, but you do have more resting time for essentially the athletes to recover.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a question that we're going to have to wait and see. I mean, I think that I think in general, I think we plan on, being competitive right away. That's our hope, is that, we've put a program together. We're going to be able to put a product out on the floor that's going to be competitive night in, night out. Mm-hmm. I think a little bit of it is kind of to be determined as our team develops, but at the same time, as we get comfortable with the teams in the conference. Mm-hmm. So I think to put a number on it, so to speak, or to be able to say this is what I expect from a success standpoint is a little bit hard to do right now. But again, I think that our plan is that, we feel good about our team, and, I think we plan on being competitive.
Mm. And speaking of success, last year the team went 16-16, and then the year before that they were 16-13. What kind of schemes or plays are you looking to bring in to take this team to that next level?
Yeah, I think that we did a good job. We signed 7 new players in about a month and a half time. So, which is not, is really a short time from a recruiting standpoint. But we feel good about all of the guys that we signed. So I think to scheme or to talk about our roster is something, again, that we're trying to build and develop. But I do think that, what I'm hopeful for is that, we kind of bring a different style of play, a different pace, a different maybe level of excitement to the game. What we hope to do is have a team that's, hard to guard defensively, a team that can get up and down the floor and play at a fast pace. So we hope that our tempo offensively and defensively kind of controls the game to where our opponents have to match that level of pace, match that level of intensity, match that tempo. And that's kind of the challenge that we would like to start with, as we talk about schemes and those type of things. So, maybe a different pace than teams are used to, or maybe a different pace than teams are used to seeing from Lindenwood. Maybe that helps us early on.
Mm. Now, you did mention that you signed 7 new players, was it? You have on the team, you have 8 juniors and 4 seniors. What are your expectations of them from a leadership standpoint going forward, not only in this season, but for the juniors next season? Yeah,
I think that's a good point, because the first night that we met, our first team meeting, I think the first thing that I talked with them about was what you just said. We've got a lot of juniors and seniors, and only 1 freshman, and I think he's actually 21 years old, so it's not, he's not a kid. And I think what that shows you, and what I challenged the team with, is that we have a lot of maturity here. We have a lot of guys that have been doing this for a long time. You've been in college; it's not new to you, so you understand how your day works, right? You understand that you get up in the morning, you go to class, and then you have practice, and then you have weights, and you may shoot again that night or that evening. Then you have to get your homework done. And I know all that stuff seems simple, but if you have a bunch of guys doing that for the first time, that time management isn't quite as good as it needs to be, and those things get kind of hectic. But what we talked about that night was having a maturity level to where you could take care of yourself off the court. You could be prepared every day coming in for practice and handle your business on the court. And I think we've seen that. And that's what I hope kind of helps us as we kind of gel as a team, is that we can take that that experience, so to speak, whether it was good or bad, throughout their careers and move it in a positive direction. Because we want to give our seniors the best opportunity to have a successful year that they can have. They deserve it. And I think that then you look at a group of juniors that, again, are all kind of getting put into a, to a bigger role than maybe they were used to. And those guys can develop that really fast and help us be a good team. So, I think we're definitely going to use our maturity and develop that into some leadership to push us along the way this year.
Mm-hmm. And then going forward into the next seasons, when you bring in more freshmen next year, are your expectations of the juniors who will then become seniors, are your expectations of them raised, or is it like, everyone you have your expectations, you just have to meet these expectations and these criteria to help us succeed going forward? Yeah,
I think obviously you're always going to look for, your older players, your juniors, your seniors to lead the way for the younger guys. But I think in general, anybody that kind of has those leadership skills, has that personality, can always develop into a bigger role, fairly quick. It just kind of depends what is that individual's leadership style like? How vocal are they? How much do they want to kind of take the reins on things? But yeah, I think we would always look at those upperclassmen, so to speak, as the guys that set the example for our program, and I think they'll always be held to that standard. The seniors have done a great job of embracing, a program that's totally new to them. Mm-hmm. They've gone through a style of play and coaching structure that was good. They embraced that as well, right? And so sometimes I think that when you come in and you've got 1 year left and you're a senior and you have a coaching change, guys can go a lot of different directions. Man, is this going to be good, or is this going to be bad? Or I was really used to doing things this way, and we haven't had any issues with that, and that's to their credit, and that kind of shows their character. Mm-hmm. And I think their excitement about one more opportunity to see how good they can be as seniors. So as they embraced it, I think everybody else saw their attitudes towards their daily work, of how they came in every day ready to see what was new, for example. Yeah. And so as they set the example, as guys that were older, as guys that were headed into their last year, I think everybody else kind of saw that, and it kind of trickles down through everybody, and it helps a lot. So those guys, that group of seniors, has done a great job for us, from the first day they were here on school all the way through the preseason into official practice. And, mm-hmm. So I think right now, those guys get a lot of credit for, their personalities and how they've handled themselves on a daily basis.
Yeah. Coach, thank you so much for joining me. That's all the time we have today. Thank you to women's coach Katie Falco and men's coach Kyle Gerdeman for joining me today. And thank you for watching the Lindenwood Sports Show. We'll see you next time.